I am out to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything, it will just be me addressing you guys and telling you what's going on. I was not able to get certain services, whether it was gift cards for a big bingo Monday, the staff was not able to even buy ice cream.
We need to put some safeguards in place to regulate what's spent on the credit card.
I do not want a credit card. I do not deal with money.
Get the leader, bring our fees to the forefront. So not just us, but the residents and everybody else in America know how the money is being spent.
How municipal funds are being allocated. How did Dolton's mayor, Tiffany Henyard, transition from hosting extravagant galas to soliciting donations for trivial expenses like ice cream? Could this signify the demise of her dubious leadership? Disillusioned residents are retaliating, halting her unlawful expenditures and unmasking the reality behind her financial mismanagement.
Vendors are not being paid. Board approved it. The vendors are not being paid.
We need to put some safeguards in place to regulate what's spent on the credit card.
I do not want a credit card. I do not deal with money.
What's truly transpiring behind the scenes? The revelations we've uncovered are astonishing. Dolton's embattled mayor, Tiffany Henyard, made a public statement addressing the city's fiscal turmoil, attributing the ongoing financial distress to a suspension of revenue, even expressing regret over the cancellation of senior activities like bingo and ice cream socials. However, Henyard's narrative conceals deeper truths. She asserts that the city's financial freeze is responsible for these trivial disruptions, but don't be deceived. The genuine cause behind Dolton's frozen finances is far more insidious. Vendors are not receiving payments, despite board approval, while under Henyard's governance, the city has descended into financial chaos. Essential services are being neglected as Henyard indulges in lavish expenditures. Fed up, the residents have now initiated a decisive move to halt her unlawful spending and finally hold her accountable for the town's fiscal mismanagement.
Not able to get certain services, whether it was gift cards for a big bingo Monday, the staff was not able to even buy ice cream.
Henyard wants the public to believe that the city's financial freeze is the root of all issues. Yet, in truth, it is her own fiscal mismanagement and excessive spending that have precipitated this crisis. The Illinois Comptroller recently suspended payments to Dolton due to overdue audits, which Henyard has continually neglected. This freeze transcends mere inconveniences like ice cream for seniors. It represents a critical juncture for the city's very survival.
Safeguards in place to regulate what's spent on the credit card.
I do not want a credit card. I do not deal with money.
While Henyard remains occupied with deflecting accountability, the residents of Dolton are enduring severe hardships. Firefighters are deprived of essential funds for their insurance and retirement benefits. The town's infrastructure is deteriorating, and basic services are being slashed. Despite this dire situation, Henyard has managed to secure $500,000 for opulent home renovations and extravagant vacations. This stark contrast underscores the problems associated with unchecked leadership. A closer look reveals how Henyard has been misappropriating Dolton's funds. Instead of addressing community needs, Henyard has indulged in lavish comforts, from five-star hotels to secret retreats. One of the most glaring examples is the $500,000 spent on renovating her residence, a project that has prompted residents to question the true allocation of their tax dollars. Additionally, her administration has been accused of systematically withholding financial records, violating state transparency laws. Despite orders from Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul's office to release these documents, Henyard and her associates have resisted, raising significant concerns. Eventually, WGN, a prominent news station, intervened by filing a lawsuit in Cook County Circuit Court to compel the release of the records. A judge subsequently ordered Dolton to provide numerous documents, including credit card statements that reveal a troubling expenditure pattern. Between July and November 2023, Henyard and her administration amassed tens of thousands of dollars in expenses, first-class flights, upscale accommodations, gourmet dining, and personal shopping. Notably, a 5-day trip to Austin, Texas, in July 2023 cost over $20,000 in taxpayer funds for Henyard, her chief aide Keith Freeman, and 3 other township officials. The receipts are particularly revealing. $1,699 at the Fairmont Austin, a luxury hotel, $389 at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and $53 for sports writing apparel. Further expenditures included over $247.78 at Walmart and Target, $4,425 at Amazon, $59 on Uber Eats from local restaurants, and $3,491 for Henyard's personal photographer. This level of spending has enraged Dolton's residents, who believe that Henyard's primary duty as a public servant should be to prioritize the community's needs over personal indulgence. The situation is exacerbated by attempts to conceal these financial misdeeds. Additionally, when not depleting township funds, Henyard is reportedly tapping into charitable donations.
On this national platform, you said you didn't know anything about a foundation. But you forget that I was in certain rooms and certain things happened. And the reason I don't support you is because you were not honest about that foundation. I was in a room.
Charity work is traditionally understood as an endeavor dedicated to giving back and supporting those in need. Yet in Tiffany Henyard's domain, this noble concept seems to have been co-opted as a means of exploitation. Let us delve into her so-called charitable efforts, specifically a cancer charity that conveniently neglected to file its financial records. It raises the question, how does one overlook such a fundamental obligation? The Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation, established in the fall of 2022, has been mired in intense scrutiny and controversy, particularly concerning its financial transparency. Promoted extensively by Henyard, who concurrently serves as the township supervisor, the foundation received an initial infusion of $110,000 from the township board shortly after its creation. This significant sum attracted considerable attention, especially given that the foundation, in its initial months, reportedly raised only an additional $33,000 from other sources. The glaring discrepancy between the substantial initial funding and the modest subsequent fundraising efforts has prompted substantial concerns regarding the foundation's operational practices. These concerns are substantiated not merely by accusations, but by tangible evidence and the collective outrage of the community. While Henyard reveled in a life of luxury, the residents of Dolton grappled with a severe lack of essential services. In response to this situation, the community has taken decisive action to halt Henyard's financial mismanagement. They have managed to impose a freeze on her expenditures, putting a temporary halt to her extravagant lifestyle. The citizens of Dolton have taken a resolute stand, legally restricting Henyard's ability to access municipal funds until a comprehensive audit is carried out. Illinois Comptroller Susana Mendoza has adopted a firm stance by withholding tens of thousands of dollars from the village of Dolton. Mendoza has declared that until she receives the required financial reports filed in accordance with legal standards, and until there is accountability for taxpayer funds, no additional disbursements will be made. She underscored that the village's failure to maintain financial transparency was unacceptable. Mendoza specifically froze $135,000 allocated for Dolton following a preliminary report by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. This report exposed questionable expenditures under Henyard's administration, transforming a multi-million-dollar surplus into significant financial debt. Mendoza emphasized that her actions were intended to protect the residents of Dolton from Henyard's ongoing misconduct. She further warned that her office is prepared to conduct a thorough audit and impose fines if Dolton fails to file the overdue audits. In light of these developments, village trustees are intensifying their efforts to ensure compliance with the Comptroller's directives. Meanwhile, Henyard's attorney has asserted that she has not refused to comply with the Comptroller's demands, but is merely striving to compel the accountant to fulfill their obligations. Nevertheless, Henyard is resisting the situation with tenacity. She is attempting to alter the narrative by claiming that the financial freeze is adversely impacting the town and its residents. Despite the cancellation of a special meeting of the Thornton Township trustees, Henyard addressed the public, denouncing the trustees' actions to limit spending and implement a new credit card policy in their absence. Her attempt at a special meeting resembled more of a soliloquy than a constructive dialogue, revealing her persistent efforts to deflect criticism while maintaining control amidst escalating scrutiny.
About to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything, it will just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's going on in Thorpe Township.
Henyard asserted that the special meeting was convened in reaction to a series of ordinances recently enacted by the village board, including one that governs expenditures for events. She contends that the implementation of this ordinance resulted in an immediate cessation of township services. Henyard contended that the special meeting was called in response to a series of ordinances recently enacted by the village board, including one aimed at regulating expenditures for events. She asserted that the implementation of this ordinance led to a sudden cessation of township services. However, residents are well aware of the underlying issue. They recognize that the financial freeze is crucial to curbing Henyard's imprudent spending and safeguarding the future of their town. While this action is bold, it may finally bring about the necessary reforms Dolton desperately needs. The financial situation has become increasingly dire, particularly affecting the village's firefighters, who find themselves entangled in allegations of financial mismanagement. Imagine being a firefighter in Dolton, someone who puts their life on the line daily, only to learn that the very municipality they serve is failing them in fundamental ways. Adam Faraj, president of Local 3766, is advocating for his fellow firefighters and clinging to hope that the right people will step forward and make the right decisions for the right reasons. Nevertheless, maintaining hope is challenging when faced with such severe circumstances. The village's financial state is in disarray, and firefighters are bearing the brunt of this mismanagement. They are confronted with unpaid insurance premiums, missing retirement funds, and a lack of transparency that places them in a precarious situation. The ramifications of this financial mismanagement are far more than mere numbers. They are deeply personal. For instance, some firefighters are facing denied claims, including those related to their pregnant spouses. Faraj highlights the distressing reality that these firefighters cannot access basic health care for their families due to the village's failure to pay insurance premiums. Moreover, Dolton's firefighters have not received a cost of living adjustment since 2019, enduring 4 years of stagnant wages amid rising living costs. To compound matters, thousands of dollars in retirement payments have inexplicably vanished. Faraj points out that 9 deposits are still missing without any clear explanation or accountability. The village administration's response to inquiries about these issues has been one of silence, creating a distressing situation where those who protect the community are left unprotected by the system they serve. Despite legal actions taken to address the missing funds, the situation remains unresolved, with the mayor's office offering no answers or solutions, only perpetuating the same mismanagement. Meanwhile, while Dolton's firefighters struggle, Mayor Tiffany Henyard appears to live a vastly different existence. Reports have surfaced showing that, despite the financial crisis gripping the village, Henyard has been indulging in a lavish lifestyle funded by municipal resources. Her expenditures include stays at 5-star hotels, extravagant trips, and even a $500,000 renovation of her personal residence. It seems that Henyard is completely detached from the harsh realities faced by her firefighters. The contrast between Henyard's opulence and the financial hardship endured by her firefighters is stark. Once a village with a multi-million-dollar surplus, Dolton is now deep in debt under Henyard's administration. This contrast highlights a broader issue. Henyard's extravagant spending and the village's financial troubles are not just abstract figures, but a direct assault on the well-being of Dolton's public servants and residents. The funds that should have been allocated for firefighter salaries, insurance, and retirement have been redirected into a lifestyle that seems more suited to a celebrity than a public servant. Dolton's predicament is not merely unfortunate, but absurd. On one side, firefighters who risk their lives are left struggling to support their families, while on the other, Henyard lives in luxury as the village deteriorates financially. The disparity is not only unreasonable, but outrageously unjust. Despite mounting allegations, Henyard has maintained strong support from her allies, including trustee Carmen Carlisle. However, as legal troubles escalate and public scrutiny intensifies, Carlisle's decision to oppose Henyard raises questions. Historically, Henyard enjoyed near-unanimous support on the Thornton Township Board, but recent reports on her spending have shifted this dynamic. Carlisle has publicly criticized Henyard's conduct, acknowledging her previous reluctance to question lavish expenditures, but now standing up against what she perceives as abusive leadership. Henyard's dismissive response to Carlisle's challenge and subsequent apology for her outburst reflect the ongoing turmoil and dissatisfaction surrounding her administration.
You know, it was a lot of negative energy going on in the room, and I attempted to bring a positive perspective to the discussion, and my approach was not received well, and instead of maintaining my composure and positivity, I reacted inappropriately. Of calling someone old and ignorant, and I also called someone a clown, which was offensive and unprofessional. I deeply regret my actions. For a long time, I was stubborn and failed to acknowledge that I owed an apology.
The recent apology offered by Carmen Carlisle has generated significant scrutiny and provoked numerous inquiries. The foremost question arises: why did she maintain silence for such an extensive period? And what has prompted her to vocalize her dissent now? Historically, Carlisle supported every action executed by Tiffany Henyard, even amidst escalating concerns from both residents and fellow trustees regarding potential malfeasance. Presently, Carlisle positions herself as a whistleblower who has purportedly come to a realization about the prevailing issues. This shift in stance raises substantial doubts. Could her newfound position reflect a sincere epiphany, or merely a strategic maneuver to extricate herself from an increasingly untenable situation? There is considerable speculation that her primary motivation is to avoid being removed from office due to her previous alignment with Henyard. A critic commented, "I remain skeptical of her motives," while another added, "The real issue is that she should have expressed her concerns much earlier." Her continued support of Tiffany's decisions suggests that her recent statements are merely a desperate attempt to salvage her own position following possible legal scrutiny. I harbor no sympathy for her or any of the administration. They all deserve appropriate consequences. Additionally, another commentator highlighted that while Carlisle's recent speech aimed to garner the support of Dolton's residents, her own problematic past significantly undermines her credibility. Carmen Carlisle, a trustee within Dolton, Illinois, faces serious allegations of theft and official misconduct. In October 2022, she was charged with these offenses related to claims that she received remuneration for work she did not actually perform while employed by the Cook County Assessor's Office. According to reports, Carlisle was accused of being absent from her duties and falsifying timesheets, which culminated in the criminal charges. This situation reflects a broader sentiment among Dolton's residents, who feel betrayed by their elected officials. Carlisle's apology has done little to mitigate the community's outrage. For many, it is perceived as insufficient and belated. Carlisle's recent behavior is merely a fragment of a more extensive issue. For years, she and other trustees have consistently ignored Henyard's questionable actions. In April, a lawsuit was initiated against the village. Henyard, her executive assistant Carmen Carlisle, village administrator Keith Freeman, and Dolton City Inspector Kim Alon. The plaintiff alleged that he was obstructed from obtaining necessary permits to commence his business, despite diligent efforts to comply with regulations. According to the lawsuit, Henyard allegedly rejected the applications because they did not align with her financial interests. With the imposition of the financial freeze and the unification of residents against her, Henyard's previously unchecked expenditure may be nearing its conclusion. Nevertheless, the conflict is far from resolved. Continuous investigations into her spending may unearth additional misconduct. Henyard's track record is replete with dubious decisions and financial mismanagement, and this latest scandal could potentially precipitate her downfall. As long as Henyard remains in office, there exists a persistent risk that she may devise means to perpetuate her corrupt practices. It is imperative for Dolton's residents to remain vigilant, persistently press for accountability, and ensure that Henyard is held responsible. The future of Dolton hinges on these actions. The financial freeze represents only the commencement of necessary reforms. The community must sustain its efforts to demand transparency and effective leadership, ensuring that the governance they rightfully deserve is established and maintained.